I'm Jess. Welcome to the Rochester Press Box from McGregor's.
The Rochester Press Box is brought to you by McGregor's Grill and Tap Room, now with 6 locations, including the newest at Easton Alexander, featuring in-house catering for parties. McGregor's, a beer lover's paradise.
Hi everyone and welcome to McGregor's Downtown for the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you, and this week joined by Kim Bernston from WHTK Radio. Thanks for coming back, Kim.
Thanks for having
Mike
me.
Catalanna, our anchor from 13 Wham News, and Steve Hausmann rejoins us from the WBEE Morning Show. Steve,
Yeah, WBEE Morning Coffee Club.
All right,
Nice to meet you. We've never met before.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Now, Steve's all wound up because he's on his way to Nantucket Island.
You bet. As soon as I finish here, I'm out the door.
First order of business, this has been a bad offseason for the NFL. Sort of an unofficial record for arrests in the offseason. Of course, the Aaron Hernandez thing has hit the news and hasn't left it and won't for a while. Stevie, I'll ask you first. What do you think NFL franchises owe the cities that they represent in terms of bringing guys to town?
I don't think they owe them anything. You know, I go back to the old days where you just brought in players, and I'll use as an example Ted Williams, the most media-unfriendly guy of all time. Fans loved him, but he insulted the fans left and right. Now, he never committed a crime, but I don't think these guys have to be anything in the community. They're hired to be athletes. They're hired to win games. And I don't necessarily think that being the right guy in the community, going out doing events is something they have to do. It's great that they do it, but I don't think it's a necessity. I don't think it's part of the job necessarily.
Right, but let's talk about what the threshold is. Are we talking about being a good guy or not killing somebody?
Well,
right? I mean, in terms of like committing crimes, I don't think you got to be out there doing charity events, signing autographs and all that. That, again, we would like to see that, but they're not obligated to do that. But if you're talking about bringing in bad guys and basically exposing your community to these people, they know, for the most part, they know there's a problem, and I think they need to be held more accountable. Now, what the Patriots did, obviously, they didn't really seem to have much of a choice if you're talking about Hernandez, but there's a lot of guys that are floating on that line there of being really bad guys that the teams know about, and I think it is their responsibility to kind of keep an eye on them a little bit.
we remember the days when the Bills would only hire and bring in high-quality guys. I mean, they did their homework on all these guys. Even the Bills seem to have let it go a little bit now.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between guys who may have a issue
Right.
or
Well, yeah.
had some issues
Yeah.
and really bad guys.
I'm kind of the opposite. I think that the responsibility really falls so much more on the individual than the team.
With obviously he has to have that personal responsibility, but there's a point though where the team can't just say, well, you know, he's had some issues and we'll keep an eye on it.
Right, but what does imposing fines and consequences really do? I don't think these guys are thinking about that when they're getting into trouble and committing crimes.
Well, what if they're a bad guy and they just cut him loose and no other team picks him up? Because you talk about responsibility to the city. What the NFL always talks about is the shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shield, responsibility to the shield. It's all about the shield. How about that? How about responsibility to the NFL where the teams, you want to have collusion? How about collusion and saying we're not going to pick up that guy because he's a jerk or because he's potentially big problems?
Well, you know, he fell from the first to the fourth round when he was originally drafted, so they recognized the issues. What was also getting attacked here, not only the shield, but the Patriots' way.
Well, yeah.
I mean, has that been tarnished in all this?
I believe so, but they've kind of done a good job of completely disassociating themselves with Aaron Hernandez, which I applaud them for. So, you know, yes, they did have a player like Aaron Hernandez, but they're doing all they can at this point to kind of save themselves.
And they worded it properly. You know, when Aaron Hernandez did that public perp walk in front of his house, you know, the Patriots said it was the right thing to do. I thought for a minute maybe they had some inside information, knowing that it was going to get really bad. It turned out they didn't know that he was going to be
They
charged
say
with
they
murder.
didn't.
Yeah.
Right. But I thought they handled it well.
I think the favorite thing for the Patriots right now is to hear that word, former Patriot, with Aaron Hernandez. I think that makes
And what
sense.
happens if you're going to wear number 81 with a Patriots jersey? You know, some rookie's going to get stuck with it. You know that.
All right, look, we'll stay in Boston for our next segment. We'll talk about the Boston Celtics conducting a clinic on how to blow it up.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, and you're watching the Rochester Press Box from McGregor's.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box here from McGregor's Downtown. Bill Pucko, Kim, Mike, and Steve. Blowing it up, the Boston Celtics traded 2 Hall of Famers, a Hall of Fame coach, for 4 first-round draft picks, a whole bunch of players. Is this disgraceful or is it shrewd, Kim?
I think people are really jumping the gun by saying, hey, tank the season and, start worrying about your future. I think we have to wait and see what this team has to offer. I think Rajon Rondo is the future of this team. I think they should build around him.
See, I don't think Rajon Rondo is the future of the team. I don't think he's a leader. I think when he's good, but when he's bad, he's uncoachable.
Right.
And for them to put it all on him, first of all, it gives him a false sense. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he is the guy at all.
If I was the Celtics, I'd bring Rondo back, show that he's healthy, and then hold an auction for a trade, dump him somewhere. Win less for Wiggins is going to be the theory for next year because you got that kid Wiggins that's supposed to be the best prospect since LeBron.
But there's no guarantee.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
But I would tell you this. That team is no way, shape, form, anywhere near competing. It's the LeBron factor in the NBA. Every team knows if you're not excellent to great right now, blow it up and start over because while LeBron's got the next few years covered, you're not going anywhere with that Celtics team.
That said, they're not bad enough yet.
They're
Well,
getting
no.
close, though. They're awful close. They can't score. They got a bunch of bricklayers in that team. I mean, Avery Bradley is a nice defensive player when you've got, Paul Pierce and you've got Kevin Garnett. They're just going to be a horrendous offensive team next year.
But the front office doesn't have to worry about that because the money for next year is already in the house. People have already paid for next year's season's tickets. So they can look forward to the Wiggins sweepstakes, in next year's draft.
But will they? You're still paying, paying top dollar for an NBA product that is borderline.
Because I think there's hope that they would come back rather quickly. You know what? I give the Celtics credit for this. They went with older guys. People said it was Danny Ainge's 3-year plan that went about 5 years. So they didn't blow this up early. They blew it up maybe a year too late. I give them credit for it. They needed to get the guys out the door anyhow. They still want to play. Saves them the money. And by the way, they didn't want Doc Rivers coaching this team anymore anyhow. Why pay him $7 million to watch him lose 55
Nor did
games?
he want to coach it anymore.
Exactly. In basketball, you've got to have superstars. You just don't win without them. Indiana's trying to do it the other way, but you don't win with them.
I don't think you can do it in any other sport. You can't do it in baseball. You get rid of 2 guys in your starting 9 in baseball. You still get 7 guys. You still have a full pitching staff. Basketball, it's so pronounced when you let 2 of your 5 guys go.
Although we've seen the Marlins attempted a couple of times.
That's true.
Sort of successfully as far as the 1-loss record. And damn it, right now they're one of the hottest teams in the National League.
And you can get a ticket for any game you want.
Alrighty, when we return, like it or not.
Hi, I'm Alexa. You're watching the Rochester Press Box from McGregor's.
Welcome back. Rochester Press Box here from McGregor's downtown. Like it or not, Aaron Hernandez is doing the New England Patriots are doing a free jersey swap for Hernandez uniforms. Do you like it or not?
I think it's a good idea. It certainly puts them more in the spotlight on how they're handling the whole thing. The thing that really shocks me about the Aaron Hernandez number 81 jersey and the support that he's getting, believe it or not, there are people in New England who are supporting Aaron Hernandez, specifically on Twitter, women who say he is so hot. This is unbelievable. Women who think, he's getting tweets, I'd spend the rest of my life behind bars with you. I can't believe he's a murderer because he's so hot. He is just, it's unbelievable the support he's getting.
Kim, what is the matter with women?
Can we really call that support, or it's just being stupid? I mean, I think there's a line of stupidity
Love
there.
is blind.
They've crossed it.
Can you arrest people for being an idiot on Twitter?
Yeah.
Would there be anybody left?
I find it shocking.
All right, look, like it or not, the New York Yankees as potential sellers come the July trade deadline.
I think they need to be buyers. I don't think that they really have all that much to sell, and I mean they've been buyers in the past. I think they're going to continue to be buyers, and they really just need to give their offense some help. Otherwise, they're not going anywhere.
I don't really see it either. Do you guys?
Yeah, I don't see what they have to sell anyhow.
Well,
What are they
that's it.
selling? I mean, you're going to try to trade Robbie Cano at the deadline.
Yeah.
But I will say this. There's going to be a point in a year, 2, 3 years when they're going to look at the Robbie Cano contract as a horrible one. Because he's going to be in his 30s like every other guy. They're going to give him too many years and too much money, and they're going to be saddled with that bad contract. He's still a great player now, but they're going to pay him way
You
into
convinced
the
that that's
future.
going to be done? I mean, there seems to be a different
Who else
mindset
are they
in New
going
York.
to trot out there next year? They are the only star they're going to have left. I don't know what's going to happen with A-Rod
Well,
if they can
Nunez
get
is
out of
coming
it.
back.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's what they're going to have. Teixeira's been a disaster.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do something. Their pitching staff is a mess. CeCe's pitching like a third-line starter. They are a mess. I said at the beginning of the year on this show that the Yankees and Red Sox would fight for last place. Give your Red Sox credit for being way better than I thought. The Yankees are about what I expected.
Alex Rodriguez got anything left?
I don't think so. I don't think he's worth. What is he really worth at this point to any team, let alone the Yankees?
And I'm hearing he's playing on that single A, or wherever in Charleston.
You know who his teammate is?
No.
Cito.
That's right,
still
Cito.
there.
How far are we from seeing Cito?
Well, but how about
Cito
this?
Culver, Rochester
Cito
first round
Culver.
draft pick,
Now,
playing
I heard
shortstop
the
for that team.
managers say, well, I want the players to be watching, Alex and seeing how he gets prepared for the game. Do we really want young kids watching Alex get prepared for a game?
Do not do it this way. Yeah, right.
The pharmacy in the corner dugout. Mike, like it or not, does anyone care about Wimbledon tennis anymore?
Tennis people care about Wimbledon. It has no reach beyond that. We have some great players. We have, on the women's side, honestly, I think Serena's done a pretty good job of alienating herself to the general public. She is a phenomenal athlete and has been a great player. She's not very likable. And on the men's side, Federer's down. Nadal seems to have lost something. We can appreciate how great they are, but if you are not a tennis person, you are not connected at all with the sport. And Wimbledon, just because all the big people have lost.
Well, let me suggest that it's kind of like the NCAA basketball tournament when all the big teams fall down. When you have the upsets, you get the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th seeds, and you get to see them advance. I think it's good for tennis that way.
Yeah, well, you see what happens in the NCAA. When that happens, the ratings dive. People say they like a Cinderella.
But
they
the
don't
fanatics,
want 8 of them.
the fanatics stay with it, as
Yeah,
they
you're
do
right.
with Wimbledon.
But again, it's a sport that it just doesn't have the reach beyond their own fans.
Why isn't Serena more popular? You would think that as the only outstanding American in the entire sport, that she'd have a solid following, and it seems like she lacks.
I think she kind of had her day. I think she had a bigger following earlier in her career than she does now. I think people are almost just assume that she's going to dominate, and she doesn't anymore, and now people don't care.
Yeah, and it seems like we talk around this every week, whether it's the LPGA, South Koreans and the Dominicans in baseball, the Europeans in hockey. This whole thing about Americans not dominating their sports like they did 30 years ago, is this something we're going to have to get used to?
Well, and especially men's tennis. I mean, I think if you had a guy, Andy Roddick was there, but he's on the periphery. There just isn't a guy. And it would be great, obviously, when you had two, and you had McEnroe and Connors, and people connected with it, and you had those players. Doesn't happen anymore. And again, in majors, a lot of people watch, but they're not connected. Golf went through that for a little bit. They had Tiger. When they lost Tiger, it was kind of gone for a little bit, and some of these other guys have really stepped up. That's helped the sport.
Is it somewhat sociological, because all the best athletes in the United States seem to gravitate to football? Is it just now wired in that we're not going to send our best people into the sport of tennis anymore?
I think it does hold true, because there isn't that person out there that you're looking at. Yeah, there are some young players who will emulate those tennis players, and I'm sure that it's great for them. But again, the general public hasn't connected.
But I don't see any kids in my neighborhood running out to play tennis.
Right.
Do you see kids in your neighborhood playing baseball?
I see them playing basketball. I see them playing football.
Yeah.
And I see them golfing, too, which is kind of neat.
And to give it its due, honestly, I think tennis is one of the great sports out there. It's great for you. It's something that you can carry into your later years. It's just in a place now where it doesn't seem capable of recovering. When we return, we have some unfinished business.
Hi, I'm Haley, and you're watching the Rochester Press Box from McGregor's.
Hi, I'm Heather, and you're watching the Rochester Press Box from McGregor's.
Welcome back, Rochester Press Box here from McGregor's Downtown. Unfinished business, Mike.
What would it be if I didn't have some media criticism, and it probably involves ESPN?
We count on this.
Well, I'm watching the NBA draft, and I'm watching what they got going on there. And there's a guy, Bill Simmons, very talented guy, Grantland.com, and he's been around the BS Report, a very talented guy connected to the NBA. And he got into it a little bit with Doc Rivers. I don't know if you saw it, but he basically called Doc Rivers a quitter, and ESPN handled it. It was kind of cumbersome. They had the reporter say that to Doc, and then Doc said, well, I'd call him an idiot, but I have more class than that. And they never let him kind of talk. Part of me wanted to see that happen and have them talk, and part of me wanted to say, leave that for the WWE. I don't want to see, is there still a WWE, by the way? I didn't want to see that. My issue with it is, and people are like, oh, it's great, and good television and back and forth. Yeah, I'll give you that. But Bill Simmons should be above this a little bit in one way. Stop being a fan. I know you love the Celtics, I know you love it, but if that was the coach of the Knicks or the coach of the Spurs or the coach of another team, he wouldn't have been going back and forth that way. I thought it was a little too much fanboy for a guy who is at his level and on a network broadcast that it is. You're calling the guy a quitter, which is really strong. And I think there's two sides to it. I would have liked to have seen a little more follow-up. I just think everybody gets all excited because it's the YouTube thing and everybody gets to see it and they call each other names. Let's elevate things a little bit. And I think it would help the entire broadcast, and I think it would help the discourse.
No, all these guys, absolutely agree. I think that the level of professionalism that these guys demonstrate, you have to stop being a fan. I cringe when I hear Michael Wilbon still pushing for Chicago. I said, back away from it a little bit. It'll help you.
It's okay if we know you're a Bulls fan, or we know he's a Celtics fan, but in that case, I think it absolutely clouded his judgment and what he did during the broadcast.
Yeah, he didn't come off well.
I also think when you're at the network level, you shouldn't be a fan. I think you're a reporter.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, I think it's at the end of the world that they know a little bit, and the guy's from Boston. But again, in more so, you got to be a little more down the line and calling the coach a quitter when there definitely was two sides.
Of course, you invented it. It sells well too. The whole circling the wagon thing with Chris Berman. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Kim, what do you got?
The summer of Dwight Howard continues. The saga. Listen, I don't know what this guy's looking for. And if you couldn't find it with Kobe Bryant, stop pointing the finger at your teammates. Are we going to do this every time you don't fit into a team? I'm tired of it. I think everybody's tired of it. LeBron got so heavily criticized when the spotlight was on him and his decision, and now we got to do this again with Dwight Howard. I don't know. I'm over it. He'll probably end up with the Lakers again anyways. Figure it out.
You know, the thing about Dwight Howard is when he was in Orlando, he was like the model citizen.
Right.
Before all this thing happened, everyone thought that he's just what you want.
It's great you made the point about LeBron. Everybody wants to kill LeBron for everything. Dwight Howard is the guy, if you're just a general sports fan, I don't want to say dislike, but maybe you should dislike. He's not a winner. He's a crybaby.
He's not a leader.
He's not a leader, and he portrays himself as all of those things. When you're that big, strong, and talented, and 3/4 of the team in the league probably don't want to deal with you. I think it's embarrassing that the Lakers are putting up billboards and getting Kobe to
very
keep
un-Laker-like.
him. Let him go.
Yeah, I say keep the drama in LA. They want it, so.
I think he might end up in Houston. He wants to be in one of those type of places. But I'm with you.
The Mavs have some cap space too. I mean, they could be a potential, but.
Yeah, it's a headache most people don't want.
Yep.
Unfinished business, Steve.
In about 3 minutes, I'm on vacation, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be going away for 3 weeks down to the beautiful island of Nantucket. Here's my dilemma. I want to take a true vacation. I don't watch the news when I'm away. I don't care what's going on in social media, for that matter, but I always struggle on whether I should stay in touch with sports. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'll watch Red Sox games, but do I have to follow what's going on in the NHL? Do I have to follow what's going on in the NBA with free agency? There's a side of me that says I just want to cut all my cords with sports, but at the same time, I know I won't do it. The good thing about my vacation is whether I follow sports or not, as soon as I get back, Bills camp opens.
That's it.
I'll get right back
it's a good time to take the vacation because there isn't a lot going on.
Right.
We had David Leggio occupied the seat that Steve Hausmann so professionally took care of today.
Honored.
We loved having David Leggio here, the Ameryk's goaltender, and over the past 2 years, he was the winningest goalie in the American Hockey League and represented Rochester extremely well. He took the high road when the organization went and backstabbed him by picking up Matt Hackett as a goalie. But in professional sports these days, it's more projections over performance. Leggio lists at 6 feet, 189, and he's 29 years old, and none of those numbers really help him. Hackett's a little taller, somehow weighs less. But he's 6 years younger, and he's got draft pedigree, so that Hackett's the guy, obviously, who's going to have the future in the Sabres organization. So Leggio's going to be cut loose. If he needs inspiration, though, that there's a potential happy ending here, he only has to look as far as Garrett Jones. Garrett Jones had a similar career with the Rochester Red Wings. He spent 4 seasons with the Wings. He averaged over 20 home runs a year as one of the greatest power hitters the Red Wings have had in decades. Twins didn't want him. They gave him a 31-game look one year and cut him loose. He winds up in Pittsburgh, and over the past 5 years has hit 92 home runs for the Pirates, who just happen to be the best team in the National League right now. There have been inspirational outcomes, and Garrett Jones is one of them. And if David Leggio, we hope, has a similar outcome with his future. Guys, thank you very much. Kim,
Thank you.
Mike, Steve,
Good to see you
enjoy
guys
your
again.
vacation, sir.
Thank you so much. Great to be here again.
Thanks for joining us. Rochester Press Box is airing also on Channel 13 at 11:30 following the late local news in addition to its regular time spot on
I did not know
Rochester's
that.
CW at 11 o'clock.
Great.
Yep, and Steve isn't going to watch from the inside. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.